Hello, my name is Fiona Stanton, and today we're going to be doing this card. Every Friday I do Friendly Friday chat now. I've started this since the new year, there's various topics that I discuss. But one thing I like to do is to show you the kind of things I've been making recently with the new Stampin' Up products. Because I can't always show everything I do, whether it's for classes or social media. I normally make more than what I need. So it's a chance to go through, and then I also give you the opportunity to comment below if you want me to do a demonstration or a tutorial on any of them. And this is one of the ones that was picked up, and somebody had asked if I could do a tutorial on this. And I guess you could call this a spotlight technique. It's slightly bigger than what you'd normally do as a spotlight technique, but I think it works well. And it uses one of the dies in the Wonderful Romance, Wonderful Floral dies, which is part of the Wonderful Romance bundle. So the stamp set is a Wonderful Romance as well. So you can find that almost at the beginning of the Spring Summer catalogue. It's about page, I think it's probably page 10 or something like that. So what I've done first of all, now I'm going to change it slightly. I'm going to change my mats. So I've got different mats there. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to kind of muddy up, antique my mats. I do like doing this. I think this is the kind of card that looks like it's slightly antique-y, so it helps. You're probably better on a non-porous surface, but always start off. That's okay. We're just antiquing it, so we don't need it to be too heavy. So just go around here quickly. There we go, and I might just do just a little bit like that, just to give it that aged look. I'll do the same here just to make sure everything ties in together. Now I'm going to be stamping in Early Espresso because I'm going to be colouring in with my blends. Early Espresso, most of Stampin' Up's inks are water-based. So you can use them with your alcohol markers, which is what the stamping blends are. They're alcohol markers. If you wanted to watercolour, say with the pencils or with the Stampin' Write markers or with an aqua painter and the ink pads, then you would need to use StazOn, which is the black ink that Stampin' Up do. They do StazOn and they do Memento. So Memento is for alcohol colouring, so it's a water-based ink. Obviously you can do lots more things other than just water. Did I say watercoloring? Alcohol markers. Memento is alcohol markers. StazOn is for watercolouring. There's a big stamp, so I'm going to do it this way so I can see whether, and I don't have to hold the block, so it gets a bit heavy. It doesn't really matter at this stage where or what angle you stamp that image. What's more important is how you stamp it on the Cameo. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to place that down where I think I'm going to want it. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want to try and get it the same angle at least. So obviously it's going to be going on the white, and I'll show you what I do in a minute. So I can see I'm more or less the same angle. There we go. And we can easily see whether this will work and look straight. Because you want the Cameo itself to look straight. So that's why you want to make sure you stamp it at the same angle as you stamped on the card. So that's fine. So that's really all my stamping done. She says, oh no, and let me do the sentiment. Let me do the sentiment quickly. You're the best thing I never knew I had. I think I haven't really bought this year a specific Valentine's or romantic stamp set. I haven't got one of all the hearts, but I think this one, and there's another one, the butterfly gala one. The sentiments in there are really nice. So, you know, you're the best thing I never knew I needed. I think that'd be great for where am I? Valentine's. Now I always have trouble getting these straight. No, see, it's wonky. Never mind. We don't think people will notice too much. And if this card goes to my husband, he won't complain at all. He knows better than that. Right. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly snip off the rim here. You might need to go around twice, once to snip it off and then once again to make it smooth. Although you can see on mine it's not completely smooth. I wouldn't worry about it too much. At the end of the day, these are the kind of things that we notice, but most other people won't. I just might take a little bit off, just try and get it as smooth and oval as possible. Unfortunately, these ovals are quite fat, because obviously Stampin' Up! Have got a set of layering ovals, but this oval is fat. It's not the same shape, so you couldn't use a die to cut this bit out. But it's not much, just to snip along the edges. And this is where I wish I'd bought my chair. So I'm going to do some colouring with my blends. The colours I am using, let me take one up. I'm using Seafoam, soft Seafoam. This is Mango Melody. Try not to get my head in the way, sorry. So this one I'm just going to put on straight. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm not going to worry about blending it. Okay, so that's Mango Melody. Then I'm going to use Highland Heather. So I always go from dark to light. I know you'll hear various opinions as to what's best to do. And I like, because this is quite a small flower, I'm going to use a dark one and I'm going to use the bullet nib. Now I'm just using ordinary very vanilla. I just find, because I'm using ordinary, I'm not using a heavy cardstock, I'm just using an ordinary cardstock, so it might bleed through a bit. I'd rather just blend once rather than do light, dark, light. I'd rather just go over it. This is bleeding more. I wonder why this is bleeding more. Oh well, I'm not too worried. It's got it is an antique-y feel after all. So we don't mind if it goes a little bleedy. Okay, so those are the flowers done, very quick and simple. Make sure I get the right lids onto my pens. I'm very good at not doing that. So, and then I'm going to use Granny Apple Green. Now I didn't notice too much difference in this one, I think, for these big leaves, and the ones at the front, I'm going to use soft Seafoam. So I use the bullet point, then I use the brush point when I'm doing the blending bit. So I like to just get a layer of colour down first. It looks a bit patchy, and then I'm going to go over the join. Always go back over the dark with the light. There we go. And use your big image as well, just so you know where you are colouring, because it can get a little bit confusing when you're doing just a patch like this. Never too sure what bit you're colouring. Now, I'm not an expert colourist. I haven't got the patience to be quite honest. That's fine. There we go. Where else? Down here. So refer to your big stamped image so you know, because it does look a bit disjointed like this. There's a little bit here. Should use dark then. Right, so then some dark down here. Sorry, I hope my head's not too far in the way for you. I might do just use this just to do that bit. My hands are shaking. I've done quite a few videos, but it always makes me nervous doing it. And I hope you do like them. I'll try my best. Now I have to say, the sea foam, I didn't really find much colour change between the dark and the light. Some of the blends are like that, unfortunately. Some of them, there isn't much difference between them. But we just work with it. We do the same technique, and if there is a little bit of difference, we will see it. It does make it a bit quicker for colouring. Oh, I guess that should have been... Oh well. So I am pretty rough and ready with my colouring. And I think that's fine. I know we're all different, and some people are really good colourers. And they can do it really quick and lovely. Right, that is the colouring done. No, it's not all the colouring done. The last thing I do is I go around with the lightest, make sure this is Pool Party. You can use a light grey as well. And I'm going to colour in all the other bits here. All the white, you know, the white space in between with this colour. And this will just, I find using something like a very pale blue or grey around your image will make it pop. It really highlights it. Now I have to say, I don't normally fill it in completely. I normally do a line around it. Just a thin line like that. Just a thin line. But this is such a small space that it wouldn't actually make any difference. So I decided to just... there's a couple of melon mangoes I've left to colour. I should say one thing at a time. I decided to colour it all in, and I think it really works. So let me just finish doing... I found a melon mango there and one there. Right. So lastly, again, I'm just going to antique this up before I do anything else. And so I hope I'm not breathing too heavy. I know I do that. Something I am conscious about and do try and stop, but it never seems to work. Right. So to get the shiny bit on it, we're going to heat emboss it several times. So put the whole thing into your Versamark pad. Let me bring over. So you have to excuse me, it's going to get noisy now while I heat emboss. I'm going to do it 3 times. The more times you heat emboss, this is clear embossing powder obviously, the more times you do it, the smoother the coat will be, the smoother the finish will be. I always put my embossing powder away each time. Last thing you want to do is heat up a pot of embossing powder. Now then, let me see, will this stretch? Yes. And you can just use your scissors or whatever you got, tweezers, just to hold it down. Give that, oh, not done the top bit, I don't think. Give that a few minutes, a few seconds to cool down, and then we're going to do it again. It's important it's not so much with the first coat because it dries fairly quickly, but with the second and the third coats, obviously what you're doing, you're not just heating up that layer of embossing powder you just put on, you'll be heating up the subsequent layers underneath, and so it does take a little longer to dry, and if you're not careful you'll leave a fingerprint or a mark, or obviously you might burn yourself with the embossing powder, because basically what embossing powder is plastic, and what you're doing up is heating up plastic. You're melting plastic onto your image. So if it's thick enough, it will remain molten for a while longer, and you may end up burning yourself and leaving a nice clear fingerprint for the police in your embossing powder. I also think embossing it helps with what you've coloured. I think you can tell here, you know, it kind of evens out your colouring a bit. I mean, if you're quick enough between layers 2 and 3, and certainly if you're doing more than 3 layers, I'm just going to do 3. I think that's plenty for this project. But depending on what look you're looking for, you may want, you know, more layers of embossing powder. But if you're quick enough, you can just heat it, then just throw the embossing powder on while it's still cooling down, because the embossing powder underneath that you've just heated will be sticky enough to hold it in place. You'll still need to obviously reheat it. Keep dropping it, don't I? Right, so this is the last time. But it gives it a kind of a faux enamelled effect, I guess, heating it this many times with embossing powder. There we go. So just leave that for a few minutes just to cool down, and what we'll do, we've got some ribbon. So this is one of the Celebration ribbons in Highland Heather. They've got a set of 5 ribbons that match the Gingham Gala 6x6 designer series paper from the Spring Occasions catalogue. They've got a set of ribbons in the Celebration catalogue which match it exactly. So you get, and let's see if I can remember the colours. You've got Highland Heather, Balmy Blue, Lemon Lime Twist, Highland Heather, Lemon Lime Twist, Grapefruit Grove, and Daffodil Delight. Oh, I like it when a plan comes together. Right, let's just make sure. So hopefully you can see it's got a nice shine to it. I think it's really deepened the colouring. It's really given it that antique cameo look. So I think this looks like a cameo. This is why I did it. So now we just, with a bit of glue, add this onto here, onto the backing. Make sure that matches up. I'll give that a few minutes just to dry on there. Some of the plastic, you know, the embossing powder will kind of, if you like, almost, how can I get this right? What am I doing wrong? Right, oh, that's better. So the embossing powder kind of seeps through a little bit the card. So it's a little bit harder to stick down. So you just need to give it a few more minutes. And probably might need to put some more glue on that actually. You might be better off actually using a tape runner or tape. It's just, as you can see, I like to move the option to move and wiggle mine. It will strip down eventually. You may need to kind of give it a minute to dry. Then, you know, then I'm going to adhere it to the project. But then I might, once it's been dry, say for 24 hours, just add a little bit more glue just like using the fine tip glue, just use a little bit of fine tip glue just to go under that edge. It's going to curl up because of the embossing to it. Right, so now this is the fun bit. Don't put too much glue in because you don't know how much wiggling you're going to do. You want to line this up. Now let's see. That looks not quite right. That looks better. That looks spot on. So I wasn't quite straight with my Cameo. It's not too bad though. I think that's straight enough. There we go. So that is, it's a spotlight technique. I like to call it a Cameo card because I think that die there from the Wonderful Romance bundle looks like a Cameo. So yeah, so just make sure you just take a little bit better care with lining the overlap. I've got it quite right there. But I don't think that's too bad. I'm quite happy with that. Nothing else is straight on it, so why should the Cameo be straight? Besides, it's handmade with love. That's what we say. My name's been Fiona Stanton from Feast Papercraft. I hope you like this video. Thank you very much. Bye.